It's great to be back on stage here today. To give you some content to what we're going to talk about here is that I am the Chief India Representative for Sweden-India Business Council based in Mumbai since 17 years. I moved there to produce wines, so I did something very totally different from what I'm doing today. But then fast forward is that I connect India with the world. Sweden-India Business Council, of course, has many members. Many of you are sitting here in the audience today. We also are the secretary for India-Sweden Business Leaders Roundtable, which was set up by the respective prime ministers to connect the two countries. And when I joined this ecosystem, I looked at the Roundtable, the CEO Forum, the government, and the members, and I said, what can we do also to connect the startup ecosystem, which is very close to my heart? And then I started Sweden-India Tech Community, and Sweden-India Tech Community is a constellation of about 200 individuals representing everything from startups, scale-ups, grown-ups, academia, media, incubators, government, of course, and last but not the least, investors. Because what would we do without our investors? And what would we do if we don't collaborate? And what better way to collaborate between such an innovative country with tech at heart as Sweden, with India, which is again an innovative country. Jugaad, as we all know, is innovation in India, with Sweden. So I would like to welcome on stage a great panel that are part of Sweden-India Tech Community. And I would like to say, ladies first, Radhika, Bajoria, who just flew in from Mumbai this morning. Welcome. Radhika is the founder of Radically Yours, and she connects women, investors, VC, with a very impressive 250,000 followers on LinkedIn. She knows everyone in the investment ecosystem in India. And now she's in Sweden to take over Sweden as well. Welcome on stage. Also, we have Mikeal Kretz, coming all the way from Malmö. He is the founder of QGroup, and he has a joint venture in India called SchbangQ. And he's going to tell us more about that. So welcome on stage, Mikeal Kretz. Peder Wallenberg, coming all the way from Stockholm. Peder is a part of Cohesion investment, and he's been traveling to India frequently over the last year, and he's going to tell us more about his initiatives and interests in India. Prasad Vanga, who also flew in this morning from Hyderabad. He's the CEO and founder of Anthill Ventures. Very excited to have you back in Stockholm for a week of very exciting meetings. You're going to tell us more about that. And then we have from Helsinki, Lauri, Lehtovuori, who is the CEO of Combient Foundry. And very excited to have you here with us today. So this is the panel. You may have a seat. I also may have a seat, I think, here in the middle. Okay. Okay, thank you. So, what I think we should start with here is to give these fantastic panelists 30-second each time to introduce themselves. Radhika, please begin.
All right, thank you so much for that warm introduction. Although Sweden is not as warm as I thought it could be in terms of the temperature. The people here are very warm though. But I run Radically Yours. It's a platform for connecting more women fund managers and entrepreneurs with the access to capital and deep networks across the globe. And I started this basically because I had 200,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I really wanted to use it beyond myself. You know, a lot of people are just posting their own selfies these days on LinkedIn, and I was like, how do I move beyond this and promote others? So basically, I built a network on LinkedIn and connected some founders from India to Silicon Valley investors and helped them raise money. And they were like, how did you even do it? I was like, just through LinkedIn. They're like, you must start a business out of this. And that's how my company, Radically Yours, came into existence. And we also have a podcast show called Radically Yours by Radhika, which is only covering business women leaders across the globe, because still, unfortunately, it is thought that only male leaders are dominating the world. We have little bit diversity on the panel today, and not as much as we would want. But I'm glad that we have so many women across the globe who are leading businesses, and the show exactly covers those business women leaders across the podcast. So yeah, that's what I'm building.
Thank you, great. And in your modest age of, you started this business when you were?
I was 21 when I started, and now I'm 25. So it's
Fantastic.
been more years.
Very excited to have you in Sweden as of today for the first time. Yes. And what's going to come out of this. Mikeal Kretz.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Awesome to be here. My name is Mikeal Kretz, and I'm a serial entrepreneur within IT, mainly IT services. So that's what I've been building during my career. Since 2012, building a company called QGroup, and we are currently in 10 countries, based out of Malmö, south part of Sweden, but also in Mumbai. So I guess that's why I'm here.
Mikeal's being modest. He's a very successful serial entrepreneur. So my name is Peder Wallenberg. I started my deep dive into India a few years ago. I wear two hats right now. One is of my family office. We do a lot of philanthropy and a lot of investments globally. And we decided a few years ago to carve out a standalone India strategy. So as opposed to having a emerging market strategy within our investments, we decided to have India standalone, to have all the different asset classes. And that was obviously like a 10-year plan, how to find the best access, the best entry points into the market in order to unlock it for the long term. One of the investments we made was into a company or a fund called Cohesion. And I got to know them really well during our due diligence process. And so once we invested, I humbly asked if I could join the team. And so now I wear two hats. So I'm working with Cohesion, which is an India dedicated asset manager, and we do our own investments as a family as well.
Hi, I'm Prasad, Vanga. I run a firm called Anthill Ventures. We primarily built on two words, scale and speed, which I feel are the most important for companies in today's world. We are a market access ecosystem for India. We help companies within India and outside to scale up in India. And Radhika, 45% of our founders are women. We are 110 companies now.
If I try this. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauri. Great to be here. I'm the CEO of Combient Foundry. We are a platform for industrial startups and industry leaders to work together. Goal is to decrease time to market, solving specific R&D and business needs by bringing those industry leaders from Nordic countries and global startups together. We've established over 300 commercial relationships between the parties. There's typically commercial relationships of customer-supplier roles, M&As happening, investments being made, joint ventures being established. So that's what we do in short. We have a team here in Stockholm, in Helsinki, and in Palo Alto, and then, of course, looking at India for next year. So also good to be here from that angle.
We're happy to have you here. And very excited that you are now also focusing on India. Talking about India, as Prasad just landed from Hyderabad, I thought who best but you to give us a little bit of the pulse of what's happening in India and particularly in the startup ecosystem.
Peder warned me. He said, you don't go first. I will go first. Anyway. But, all right. So India is exciting for all of you, more exciting for us. I used to live in the valley near San Francisco, moved back about 10 years ago, made the move at the right time, I guess. Saw a drastic change in both the consumer behavior and the growth story in India. A lot of companies and people have adapted to what we call as consumer urbanization at the peak, right? Even after COVID, the behavior has changed a lot. People started spending a lot more money. People started investing a lot more money than saving money. I mean, India was always known to have high savings, right, in the banks. But that's changed quite a bit. It's the ground rule in India is to live the moment right now, right? Everybody wants to live the moment. You see a lot more people traveling outside. You see a lot more people spending on luxury. You see a lot more people enjoying their life. It's because I think there is a realization that has happened also because of COVID, is that you need to live your life fully. That is something that is a trend, not only a trend, but something that is going to stick for a really long time, because your behavioral change is at a drastic pace. Today, 700 million youngsters are there in India, right? And that number is only increasing. We are the largest young people population. 96% of them have internet. And internet is at 22 cents a GB, which is probably the cheapest in the world, right? Which allows people to know more about the world than what they used to, and more about getting connected, more about getting inspired, more about how they shop for things online, right? The change was very, very quick. And is also the change for getting off an app is also very quick. So you have to watch out for this behavioral trend if you're going to target the Indian market. The Indian market is also at the same time not the easiest market to understand. All of you know this. I mean, India is like many countries together in one small place. A lot of people tell me India is a large country. No, India is a small country with a lot of people. So it's a very dense country. Right? So you have to think about, language barriers. You have to think about, consumer behavior changes. You have to think about cuisine changes. I mean, but one great thing is that India is taking that cuisine globally. I mean, I've eaten some of the best South Indian food in Stockholm called South Indian, right? I mean, outside of my hometown. So what I'm trying to say is that India has a great growth potential, but you have to understand it better. You need to have the patience to invest in it for a longer period of time. I mean, Peder's strategy is probably the best. He comes 2 to 3 times to India just to have fun. No, actually work. But he understands it. He understands it from the people that he meets. I think that's the most important part, to build relationships that you can trust. Yeah.
And I 100% agree with you. And one organization that has done so throughout the world is, of course, Combient, then started Combient Foundry by Lauri. And you've been working with China. You've been working a lot with the US in the past, but now India has become your next focus market. Why is that so? Could you give us a little bit on that? And who do you collaborate with to really access that market?
Yeah, well, I think, Prasad, you already pointed out why India is important. If we look at it from our angle, there are maybe a few things that we see relatively important as well. One is having already over 100 unicorns coming out of India. By some estimates, India will be the #1 manufacturing country by 2030, around that figure. So it's going to be a massive, massive change that we are constantly seeing here happening. Major market opportunity for many industrial companies as well. But not least, I think with India, if you look at the expat network that India has around the world, so there is so much knowledge, capital and everything that can be linked back to India that is going to be changing quite rapidly how we see it. So for us, it's about working with the brightest talent, cutting edge technologies and solutions. And that's, what we see that India is already, but will be in the future even more so, producing. And as Prasad said, it's about also knowing who to work with. So if we look at, these key ecosystems in the world, as Cecilia mentioned, whether it's China or Silicon Valley, if we look at India, it's about knowing who do you work with, who to trust, and how to build the future with those people. So it's about establishing that network. And there we are relatively new, so that's why it's really interesting to be here, because that is something we're currently exploring with our companies. And if you look at it from our company's perspective, you have industry leaders from the Nordics. Major global corporations. But when you go to India, not that big anymore, right? So the size is just totally different. So for us to combine the leading industrial companies coming from the Nordics and making that a sort of an easy gateway for the leading talent in India to tap into these industrial companies in the innovation domain, that's something that we want to achieve here starting next year and going forward.
Great, and we're very excited to be part of this journey as well. And one of the initiatives that we also worked very closely on together is Sweden-India Innovation Bridge, where we have people working either in tech or innovation, AI-focused, coming from India or the Nordics to Sweden. And quite a few of us actually are involved in this, including Prasad, as we will go to Hyderabad. So a few activities, we'll talk more about that later. It's interesting here on the panel, everyone has so much interest, of course, in India, but working in India in different ways. Investments, ecosystem, industry. But Peder, what I find interesting with your journey is that you started studying and understanding India long back, but it's only the last years that you've really been coming there so frequently, in particular with Cohesion. But it would be good to understand, you know, from the investment cap, why is India so interesting for you?
Great question. So for us, I mean, it was just a few years ago where we had more of an classic emerging market focus, where you have a little bit in where China makes up about half of that focus. So for us, obviously, when China became, I'll say it diplomatically, less investable, then all of a sudden you look at the rest of the emerging markets and you see what's left. And you know, the term emerging market, I think it was coined in like 1981 by a World Bank economist, and it was in order to like make it easy to bucket all these countries into one basket. And if you look at all these countries today that are in the emerging market bucket, you have like, in some of them in the classifications, you'll have Nigeria, Iran, Brazil, India. These countries have not a lot of things in common. So it doesn't make sense to have a manager or someone doing your investments overseeing all these countries. So for us, as we, you know, are custodians of permanent capital, our own capital, you know, we're like, okay, how are we going to look at India? And after looking at it for about a year, we decided that, like, okay, India is, and we came to the conclusion that this is probably, if not, like I said this morning, the greatest investment opportunity of our lifetime. And the reason for that, again, like I said this morning, for those of you who are here, is that India's its market cap is gonna double in the next few years. Whether it's 5 years or 9 years, you know, that can be up for debate, but the fact that it will double in the next decade, that is certain. And then more importantly, by 2050, it will go from 4.5 trillion to 40 trillion. So that's a massive opportunity. Why would you outsource that to a team looking at several countries? And the answer is you wouldn't. The only reason you think about doing that is that we're sitting here on the other side of the world. So for us, it made perfect sense to try to become experts ourselves, even if it took 10 years to do so. So I embarked on this journey to try to become an India expert. I have 3 kids at home, so I can't travel all too often, but 3-4 times a year I try to go to India and treat it as its own standalone investment pillar in our portfolio. And it was during that time, like I said earlier, where we came across Cohesion. So for us, like Prasad mentioned, we don't invest with anyone just for the sake of exposure. We invest when we have high conviction, you know, and then we build deep relations with those managers or those businesses over time. So we'd rather have 4 managers and have a great depth of understanding and trust with, as opposed to 20 managers. So for us, we wanted to get that access and have our portfolio set in order to enable and access the next 20, 30 years of growth in India. So that's how we look at it.
Yeah, it's a great background, and we're very excited to have you working more in India and traveling more to India to visit the likes of Prasad and Hyderabad and other places. And you're also going to be part of Sweden-India Innovation Bridge in November, which we're looking forward to. Now we're speaking a lot about India, but I also want to understand Radhika. You're of course from Mumbai, but you're coming today to Sweden for the first time, and you're very excited about the Nordics. So, you know, putting the other cap on, what is it that makes the Nordics so exciting for you in India?
Before that, I want to, tell everybody to make Peder ambassador of India. The way he just spoke about India was fabulous. But glad to see that you're investing in India. And I'm sure Anthill is one of your, right investment spots because they will help you make your portfolio double and even more. But coming to your question, I feel that a lot of, especially talking about EQT, I mean, they shifted to Asia recently. And I think 40% of their Asia investments is now in India, which speaks highly about what is the focus of Norwegian funds, especially like EQT in India. I mean, today only I was reading about this, and it was shocking to know that 8 billion was invested across like 4 years from EQT in India. And just for 2024, the target is $5 billion, which is more than what they've invested in 8 years. So that speaks highly of the fact that how much are people eyeing on India from abroad. And I feel like we've not tapped enough on the Norwegian market as we should, because there are so many family offices like Peder's who are wanting to come to India but do not have the gateway or the access to come into the picture, right? Like, for example, in Denmark, we have a family office fund called Maj Invest. And they recently opened up their offices in India because they feel that they can actually get good returns on their portfolios. And, through Radically Yours, our aim is to really get these people into India by connecting them through various bankers, fund managers, or even lawyers for that matter, to help them understand more about India and what we have as a nation. So I felt that this is the right time to tap onto this, and what better market than Norwegian space, because it highly talks about female representation. Sweden, in fact, was the first one to talk about the discrimination law and bring about gender pay parity and gender equal representation in the workforce. So I really look up to Sweden in that regard, because the kind of labor that we have here in terms of both male and female representation, it's really unparalleled, and I don't think so we have this kind of representation as we should in other parts of the globe. So that's why now my focus is on Norwegian market as a whole. And thanks to you for introducing me to this market. Had I not known you, I don't think so I would have tapped into this region as much as I wanted to. So now that the journey has just begun, I'm very excited to see what lies ahead.
It's very excited to have you here, Radhika. And the Nordics is a great market to look at. And of course, being here in Sweden today, when you look and you talk about the equalities that we have, there's a lot we can also bring back to India. So I'm excited you're going to go back to India, to all the network and the followers that you have, and talk about what we're doing in the Nordics, in Sweden, Denmark, and Norway. Mikeal, you have done so much, as we all know, who know you, in the business. But what I find interesting is that you run your successful company in Sweden. But you came across, you actually came on a delegation with Founders Alliance. This is about 6 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, because that's where we met first. And after that delegation, you decided to actually start a joint venture in Mumbai in India. You're going to call it SchbangQ. And I thought it would be interesting for the audience to understand, what is it that makes this collaboration between India and Sweden such a success? Because that's what it has become, your company in Mumbai, SchbangQ.
Yeah, actually it's your fault, because you were the one that arranging and taking care of us when we came down to Mumbai from Delhi with the delegation. So thanks for that, Cecilia, definitely. And what happened actually was that you have to put your feet on the ground. You have to be there. You have to meet people, and of course it takes a while. As Prasad said, you have to build trust from both sides of the people you meet, and you need to get to know them. So after this meetup, actually we started 2 companies from that journey. One was actually that we managed to move one mobile payment company from Malmö to India as well, and together with Vinay, which was one of the guys over there. So I'm not operational in that company, but they are definitely on the ground at the moment, working with MPCI and RBI. So that's really, really cool. That came out from that journey. But the other side, we're talking about the consulting company. We had one-on-one meetings when we were, I think we were at Soho House actually.
Yeah, that's usually where we end up.
Yep. And I had one-on-one with a guy called Harshil, who was running a marketing campaign company called SchbangQ. Highly successful. Like at the moment, they were like 300 people. Now I think they're 1,300. But we we really got to know each other good. I invited him over to Sweden, so we didn't have any business, but I invited him over to our Christmas party, our yearly Christmas party at QGroup, which is quite famous. And he got a feeling for what we did and how we take care of our employees. He invited me over, so I came over and met with all his employees and saw how they structured their company, and I really liked what I saw because it was not hierarchical at all. It was really flat organization, and the management was really working alongside with all the employees, which I'm a favor of, definitely. And then, of course, we had the same kind of humor, and that helps always, you know. So if you could laugh together, you could always do business together. That's my take. And after a while, we came up to the conclusion that they wanted to move more to heavy tech, and then we proposed, like, okay, let's set up a company together, which much more focused on heavy tech development. So that's what we did. Yes.
And that's doing well.
It's doing great, actually. So as I talked to Prasad outside, we managed to get a new local client as well in Mumbai, Isha, right? So that's cool. And Peder knows them as well. So yeah.
Not just any client.
No, exactly. So
it's really been exciting to see your journey and how you've been growing and how the team has been gelling so well together, the Swedish and the Indian. For people who don't have the opportunity yet to set up JVs in India, there are, of course, ways to work with various organizations. And I thought maybe put some more light on Anthill Ventures, because you, of course, you spoke about, well, you didn't speak enough about it, the opportunities to invest with you, but you also have your accelerators and, you know, various like studios and garage within the ecosystem. So tell us more about Anthill Ventures and how people can be part of your journey.
Yeah, so my journey started about 10 years ago. I was with the corporate before. I was with G Capital, which became Genpact later. We grew from 20,000 to 75,000 people in 5 years. And then after that, I gave up. And then I was like saying, okay, let me take a break. Let me do a sabbatical for 2 years, understand what I want in life. And that's how Anthill started. But what I saw was, as I said, 2 important words, scale, which the large organizations have, and speed, which the entrepreneurs or young startups have. If we can bring both of that together, it can become a great platform to create impact. So we started working with large corporates like Qualcomm, like Ferrero Rocher, like Intel, and we started working with young entrepreneurs who have potential to scale. And we brought both of them together through various programs that we do. So one of the ways that you can interface with Anthill, not just as an investor, but also as a family office or as a corporate, we can run a specific program for market access into India. And that will help you understand India better. That will help you build relationships better. So we are the only company for Singapore government to do a Global Innovation Alliance program in India, where Singapore tech startups use us as a platform to come into India, meet new corporates. And that also brings an interesting way for us to identify companies and invest in them. and the other ways to interface with us is to find good companies here in the Nordics, which we think are fantastic on the whole climate tech side, on the sustainability side, on healthcare, that have a potential to scale in India. For example, we have a network of about 26 hospitals, which can help with clinical validation, which can help with faster proof of concept for Nordic healthcare technologies to come into India. So that's another way to do it.
And I on purpose put you next to each other, Lauri and Prasad, because I see there are so many ways where you could collaborate with Combient Foundry, with Hyderabad, with Anthill Ventures. Of course, tomorrow you have this big day, the Industrial Leaders Summit. The Industrial Future Summit. Course.
Potato.
So then we are I'm very much looking forward, because that's a collaboration with Sweden, India, Innovation Bridge. Prasad himself, of course, will be there. How do you see, why is it like, we're going to be there, you're going to talk about so many things, but what are the key topics this year? And how can we further help you accelerate in India at this event tomorrow?
So we are going to have tomorrow, briefly on the summit, I'm getting a bit of an echo, hopefully it doesn't matter that much, but over 500 people coming together from over 30 countries, from the industry as well as from startup space. And that's the very core what we do all overall. Tomorrow we're running over 300 one-to-one meetings between industry leaders and startup founders during that day. And for us, it's about, and for our companies, it's about how do you stay competitive. If you look at the industrials, it's about working with the top talent, utilizing best technologies and solutions, coming mostly out of startup space. That's what we focus on. And as said many times here, India is a major hub in that regard. And for us, it's about understanding, once again, navigating the whole ecosystem, who to work with and how to do so is something that we are looking at establishing going forward. And that's where it comes to the tech community as well, to make that happen. So what we are seeing is increasing number of interesting Indian startups, but it's also what we want to do is understanding the ecosystem, investors, accelerators, tech players all together, who to have a proper dialogue and exchange. Where do they see the ecosystem going? We see there tremendous value in understanding also who to work with going forward.
And the ecosystem, I mean, you're also bringing so much to the ecosystem, so it's really like a win-win when we all come together and collaborate. On understanding who to work with, I thought it's relevant for you, Peder, to tell us a little bit about that one person that you identified in Mumbai that now is kind of taking the main decisions on the investments that you do on the Indian stock market.
Yeah, so
what is Cohesion's secret recipe?
What's the secret sauce? Yeah. So, for our standalone strategy, you have the public market, you have the private market, and then you can split the private market into pre-IPO, and then you have more of the venture side. So in a perfect world, if one is serious about allocating capital to India in the long term, you would have a trusted partner for each of these segments and build that relationship over time. For us, we didn't plan to start with public equity to begin with, listed equities, but we came, during our due diligence process, we met just a ton, over 50 different providers, and this was one of them, and this one stood out to us, and then we spent the time to get to know this guy, Mikeal, and his team over the span of many months. He came to Stockholm, we went to Mumbai, and it was during that time where we ended up trusting each other, and we also liked the idea of investing in something for the long term, but you also have the option with the liquidity that the public market brings. So Swedes are no foreigner to this. I think out of the Swedes, the average Swedish household's savings, half of it goes into the stock market, which is actually very high if you compare to the rest of the EU. If you look at France or Germany, it's like 15% of the household savings are in the stock market. So Swedes or Scandinavians are actually quite aggressive in their investment strategies, but the stock market's something that's very big in the Nordics. And so we came across Cohesion, got to know them really well, and we like the way that they look at companies and the way they identify and go after opportunities in the market. So, finally, like I said this morning, often when there's big macro themes coming through, whether it's the banking sector or Modi-initiated reforms, the formalization of the economy, where basically overnight cash just became obsolete and you had hundreds of millions of bank accounts literally open, which just shows that Modi in India means business. These are all massive themes, and for each one of these reforms, there's a lot of, frankly, from an investor perspective, there's money to be made, if you have the right people on the ground helping you identify and access these themes. So this morning we talked about green energy as one of the themes, and there's a ton being invested into green energy, solar energy. I think solar energy is going to make up 40% of the electricity in India by 2030, which is just enormous. And there's a bunch of industries around solar panels that will be taking off in the next 5 or even 2-3 years. So those are the pickaxe industries. So you can buy solar companies, you can buy transformer companies. There's a bunch of different industries around it. And then just last thing, India just I think announced the order of 1,000 aircraft, which is enormous, the biggest order in history that any country's ever done. And I think it's on average, an Indian citizen today spends on average in the country $1 a year on airfare revenue as an average. So all it takes is for that to go to $2, and that's a 100% increase. So India is booming, and the opportunities and the themes are massive. So in order to access it, you need the right people on the ground, and you need to have spent the time to build that trust.
And you are spending that time. You have found quite a few people on the ground, so I truly believe in what you're doing at Cohesion. And I recommend anyone looking at investments in India to look at that further. But I also recommend anyone looking at investments in India then to find the right people. And is it that you are looking at that, one woman who can connect you with the whole investment, also ecosystems, the VCs, and also potentially I see some women in the panel, or even men for that matter. Radhika is great. She knows so many people in India, but I also thought it would be good then for you actually tell the audience here on site and online, what is it that you do and how can people be involved and join your network and grow with you?
Yeah, I think like Mikeal said, he met one of his partners in a party. So I think, as weird as it may sound, but partying is a great tool to meet people, not to forget that you remain in your senses and then interact and not get too drunk. But I think it's a really big way of networking, and it's very underrated. People don't think that it's equally important to go outside of your work and, socialize. And that's why I think we don't see enough women in the market professionally socializing and having a network as much because of the responsibilities. They have to go back home, take care of their family and their children. They can't, go to parties outside and network. And, I heard this from the chairperson of Deloitte, who I interviewed on my show. She's the only female, by the way, who has become the chairperson in a Big Four company in India. So she told me that what is an option for women to network otherwise is that they host these barbecue parties in the gardens of their houses, and they get the professionals to come and meet their families as well, not just the representative who's working in the organization. What this gives is a way for the family to also look at the kind of people you work with, for them to support you in your workforce, because a lot of times women are still not supported by the family members. They still feel that, why should you stay at your work till 11 or 12 in the night? Why can't you come earlier? So I think if these kind of social gatherings can take place, First, it can solve the issue of women having the less network. Secondly, it can open gateways to many more possibilities which you didn't imagine it would happen, you know. Like, I don't think so you have had envisioned that you will collaborate with somebody in India and have a joint venture, you know. So that is something that one should definitely keep themselves open to. And that's what we try to do. We host a lot of women-only events across different countries. Like, our last one was in Singapore, and we did it with GIC. What that helped was with, you know, women getting to know each other and share their vulnerabilities very openly, you know. And the main motive of these women-only events is to really socialize beyond the professional side of things, because when you start talking about your personal life and what you're going through personally also, it really builds a connection with you and the other person. I mean, at the end of the day, business is what? Just dealing with people, and humans are made of full emotions. Logic comes later in the story, you know. So we try to capitalize on that, and after every event that we do, people tell us that, you know, thanks for doing this event, because today I made a good friend, I made a good professional connect, and I made a good stranger into a friend who I can just share everything that I want, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes women just need another ear of somebody who's gone through same set of experiences. So that's why the women-only events, you know, help. Hopefully now with Sweden, we'll also do one chapter here now that I've come.
But here we collaborate. So here I come in and I say, I don't think we should do only women. I think we should do equally. So we will have an event on Norrsken.
Of course, because we've already achieved the female representation that we need here in Sweden. So that's the beauty of it.
So this is something we do in Sweden. In India, we try to get more women, you know, men also into the picture, and vice versa. But in Sweden, we will do an event at Norrsken on Friday, where we will invite both men and women, but we will talk about how we can collaborate more. And what I was trying to also touch a little bit more on is that, you know, Swedish, Nordic, Scandinavians coming to India. You're a great person to connect and open doors, and you do not only do female-only events, and you're doing so many activities around the world. Even the one you had in Singapore now, I know Prasad attended because he also is having a leg in Singapore. But looking forward to your week here and to the event also at Norrsken on Friday, which you are all welcome to attend. We're going to talk more about investment opportunities in India with Radically Yours and Norrsken. Men då har vi då Mikeal. I wanted to also kind of get your feeling on some last points here, because we're talking about everything from investments to collaborations to you coming more and more to India. But you're doing so much around the world, but I see India is so important that you've decided to come with me next month to Hyderabad and Bangalore at Sweden-India Innovation Bridge. Tell us more why.
Yeah, absolutely. absolutely, I will do. Why India? Because, you know, if you're talking tech, there's so much potential and so much educated people in India. So I think, I don't have the numbers, but more or less, you know, engineers produced in India in 1 month is more that produces in Sweden in 10 years, you know. So of course, and you need to navigate that and find the right competence for your company, of course, and that's the hard issue, because recruitment is not the issue in India actually, but you need to find the right persons. But once you do, you have tremendous journey with super intelligent people in our line of business there. So, and of course, as everybody else in the panel have talked about, the growth in India, and that goes, of course, when you're talking about local clients as well, local customers. Many companies in my line of business, consulting company, when they're talking about India, they're talking about moving projects from Europe or US to India to be developed there on a lower price. But we turn that around. We want to have the superstar consultants in India working also with local customers in India and build that up as an ecosystem. So we are not there to doing outsourcing of work. We are there to build local company with local customers. So that's another take, actually. Yeah.
Could you give us an example on something that you've done in India with a local customer? So maybe someone here will say, okay, I want to do this, and I want to do it with you. Why?
Yeah, the latest thing that we're working on now actually is working with Isha's website, so redoing stuff there. So on the design and the back-end system. So yeah, so that's what we can do there. Of course, we do a lot of other stuff as well. So machine learning, AI, latest. So we are quite broad in terms of competence there. Absolutely. And of course, our collaboration with SchbangQ. So if you need marketing, that's their line of business. So then we connect you with Harshill, definitely.
Great. We're coming to an end of this fantastic session. All of these panelists will be here with us this afternoon, so you can continue talking to them then, or you can join us in India or in Malmö or in Stockholm or in Hyderabad or in Helsinki. So many places to go, so little time. But thank you so much, Radhika, Mikeal, Peder, Prasad and Lauri. It's fantastic to have you so active in the Sweden-India tech community. Looking forward to these next decades of collaborating even further, and looking forward to a great afternoon with all of you here. And thank you also, Sanjo, and everyone in the team for giving us this opportunity to share our journey and invite you to our ecosystem. Thank you and namaste.